Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today we are looking at summarizing data. This is 3.8a Readiness Practice, the advanced version. If you are interested in exploring the intermediate or proficient versions of 3.8a, or looking at the resources aligned with any other standard, you can find them by using the link in the video description. So we've got these third grade students at Texas Elementary. They voted for their favorite lunch. We've got options of pizza, tacos, hamburger, chicken nuggets, and spaghetti. So we need to create a frequency table, and then we need to create a bar graph. So let's create a frequency table first. And so what I want to do is I just want to build it right up here, and I'm just going to put lunch. I'm going to put tally marks. You don't necessarily need to put a tally marks. I'm just going to put that just to help us a little bit, and then I'll put frequency, because really when we're talking about a frequency table, we're just talking about what's the actual number, right? So I've got pizza. Now, if I want to do tally marks, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 3 sets of 5 and that one extra. And then I'm just going to put a 16 right there. So I'm going to convert this into a table of values, and it's kind of easy to move from that table of values into a bar graph if we need it. So we've got tacos. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then let's make that 12 votes. So we've got hamburgers. That's 14. So 5, 10, 14. Almost 15, but not quite. So there's your 14. So I've got chicken nuggets. So I'm going to put CH nuggets. That's going to stand for my chicken nuggets. That's 20. So that's 10, 20. That's 5, 10, 15. There we go. There's my 20. I need one more row, and I'm kind of running into the words there. Just going to build it underneath that line right there. I'm going to put spaghetti, and that's 19. So it's going to be very close to that 20. It's just going to have one less. And there we go. So there's my frequency table, including tally marks. You may or may not include tally marks. Now we need a bar graph, and we need to count by fours. So we need to have a scaled interval. So I need to count by fours to get up to 20. So let me give myself a little bit of room. I'm going to start with some straight lines, and I'm going to start with this will be my bottom line right here. So let's make that my 0. And what I want to do is I want to count by fours, because that's what it says, right? So I've got 4, and I've got 0, and I've got 4. I'm going to try to make them the same distance apart from each other. Okay, so there's my 0, there's my 4, there's my 8, there's my 12. Let's do 2 more. Let's get up to 16, and then let's get up to 20. If you want, you can go up to 24 just so that 20, because I've got a 20, I've got a 19, will go all the way up to the very top. So you might elect to have an additional row. That's just a choice that you can make. And what I want to do is I want to build a line right there. There we go. So there's my vertical line. I get one extra one right there. There we go. And I'm going to draw a little bit. I'm just going to kind of get rid of these that are hanging off, because when you're drawing, you want it to be kind of straight lines. And it's kind of difficult sometimes when you're drawing it by hand. I'm obviously using a computer program. If you're drawing by hand, you're going to want a ruler probably. So let's get some scaled numbers here. So I've got a 0, I've got a 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And let's go ahead and get a title here. So we're going to call that Favorite Lunches. And we can put that on the top. You might put your title below. So now I've got 5 different lunches, and I need to just put them here. So I'm gonna draw 5 different bars, and Just for clarity's sake, we'll go ahead and just make them different colors, but you might make them all the same color. So let's start with pizza. Now my pizza, remember, is going to be 16. So I have a line right at the 16. And so I'm going to just draw 2 lines down. And instead of just shading all the way in, I'm just going to use these diagonal slashes, and that's going to kind of represent that. So there's my pizza. That was pretty straightforward. Tacos, also pretty straightforward. I'll make that green because it's 12. So I have a line right there on 12. Now, it's not always going to stay that simple. Let's get my tacos right there. Let's get some vertical or some diagonal lines to help fill in that vertical bar. So now we get to hamburgers. Now hamburgers is 14. There is no 14, but if we look between 12 and 16, halfway in between there's an even number. There's a difference of 4 between 12 and 16. So half of that is 2. So what is 2 in between there? And that's going to be a 14 right there. So if I skip count by 2s, I can hit the halves. And I'm going to need that for my hamburgers. And so I'm going to build that right here. I'm going to put ham burgers. And I want to hit that 14. So it's going to try to be right there in between the 12 and the 16. And we'll once again fill in with these diagonal lines. So now we've got chicken nuggets. All right, so chicken nuggets is right up at the very top, so that's pretty simple. That's my 20 right up there. And so I'm going to put CH nuggets, and I'm just going to draw all the way up to the very top of my bar. Now it's that last one that's going to get a little bit interesting. So if I've got my spaghetti, and that's 19, I'm going to make that orange here. Well, I could do the same thing as I did with my hamburgers. If I take my 16 and 20, that's a difference of 4, cut it in half, then that's a 2. So what's 2 more than 16 and 2 less than 20? That's going to be your 18. So 18 doesn't quite get me to 19, but now I know that 19 is right between that 20 and that 18. So you almost have to cut it in half, and then cut your half in half to get what you need for spaghetti, because it's a scaled interval of 4. So it's very close to 20, and it's not exactly halfway in between 16 and 20. That would be an 18. So it is between 16 and 20, but it's closer to 20 than it is 16, and that is going to represent your 19. So that's probably the hardest one on this. So double check your reasoning on where you placed your top limit for your spaghetti. And so that's going to be our favorite lunches, and we are going to be happy with something that kind of works similar to that. For number 2, we have a class of 26 students, and we have pets that need to be owned. We need to create a dot plot. You notice we're missing some data. So let's create a dot plot of what we know, and then we'll try to figure out what that missing data is. So I've got 26 students total, and I know how many students have no pets, 1 pet, and 3 pets. I've got some that own 2, and that some that own 4. And we know that sum is the same for 2 or 4. So that's going to be helpful. So let's start with what we know, and then we'll get into the sum. So here's my dot plots, and I'm going to label it number of pets. I'll put that label underneath. Number of pets. And so what we're ranging from is 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we'll just put 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then what a dot plot is we just draw little circles. I'll do right here. And those represent each of them represent 1. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to make them evenly spaced. So my one pet has got 8. So what I want to do is I want to match what I've done on the 0. So I've got 5, and then 8 is 3 more. So I just need to add 3 more using the same spacing as much as possible. I'm going to skip my 2 because it says sum. I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to try to just match the rows that I've kind of made with my 0 and my 1. All right, so there we go. That's all I know so far. Now I know that 5 and 8 and 3, 5 and 3 make 8, so 8 and 8 make 16. So 16 plus, I'm going to put an unknown number for 2 pets and an unknown number for 4 pets. It needs to equal my total, which there are 26 kids in the class. So how far away am I from 16 to 26? Well, I'm 10 away from 16 to 26. So these two need to equal 10. But if there's 2 of them and they're the same, I can split that 10 into a 5 and 5. So that's the trick with this question, is figuring out how many are 2 and how many are 5, or how many are 4. And we're going to have 5 students that have 2 pets, and we're going to have that same number 5 that have 4 pets. And if we add the 5 and 5 to the 5 and the 8 and the 3 that we have, then that gets us our 26 students. For our third problem, we have a local bakery. We're recording numbers here, and we need a pictograph, and each picture here represents 8 cookies. All right, so pictograph, that's a pretty big cookie if each one is going to represent 8. So I'm going to draw a vertical line here to kind of separate what we're doing, and a horizontal line. I'm going to make my pictograph go side to side. You don't necessarily have to make it side to side, but you can think of it as almost like a bar graph that's on its side. So there's 4 different types of cookies, so I want to give myself 4 different columns, or 4 different rows here. One for my chocolate chip, one for my sugar cookie, one for my oatmeal raisin, and then one for my peanut butter. And so let's go ahead and label this as, we will say this is the cookies sold. So that will be our top, and I'll say cookies sold. Now I'm just going to put each one in a different color. So we'll say chocolate chip. And we can start with that. And before we get into that, we do need to make sure that our key is represented. So I'm going to draw a circle. And that circle is going to represent, just hit that right there. It's going to equal 8 cookies. So let's start with my chocolate chip. I'm going to skip count by 8s until I get up to 34. So that's going to be, let's get my circle back. All right, so that's going to be, let's see, let's get that to be red. All right, so skip counting by 8s. I'm going to get 8, 16, 24, 32. You want to make sure that your cookies are also, you try to make them evenly spaced, uh, kind of up and down vertically, like you're making a bar graph. You want them to kind of be like we did with the dot plot. You want to make them the same distance apart from each other. Now let's change to our sugar cookies. Let's make that green. And we need to make that 28. Now, you can't get by 8s to 28, so we're going to get close. So we're going to get 8, we're going to get 16, we're going to get 24. I only need 4 more to get from 24 to 28, and 4 is half of 8. So a lot of times when we have these pictographs, you'll have a full circle and then a half circle, if circle happens to be your shape. So I'm just going to draw the full circle, and then I'm going to use a white color just to kind of color in the part that I want. So that's 8, 16, 24 plus 4 more gets me 28. And we'll do that for basically the rest of these. Oatmeal raisin is going to, let's make that blue. Oatmeal raisin. And I want that to be up to 52. And we don't have 52 when we're counting by 8. So let's see how close we can get. We can get 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Make that one a little bit closer. There we go. 40, 48. If I do one more, it's 56. But if I take 4 away, now I'm going to get down to 52. So what I had was that 48. I had 6 full circles. Then a half circle gets me 4 more. That's going to get me up to my 52. And then let's do that same thing with our peanut butter. And I'm thinking of in sets of 8s and 4s. How can I get up there in 8s, that's full circle, or 4, a half circle? So I'm going to get 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, and then I need 4 more. 56 plus 4 is going to get me 60, because if I get 8 full circles, that's 64. So I'll do the same thing. There's my half circle. So I only had one row, that very first one, chocolate chip, that actually had just full circles. The rest is going to be just full circles with a half circle, and so we're always going to be thinking about that half circle. So if you are interested in exploring the resources for 3.8a for the intermediate or proficient version, or for exploring resources aligned with any other standard, you can find them by using the link in the video description.